This is video number 7, and we're going to talk about parasite protection. Parasites in the insect world include ticks and leeches. They find a host to suck their blood to survive. So essentially, you are the host, and somebody out there is the parasite. So same in the digital world. You have other people who are linking to your images, to your videos, and other big files. Now, this is not to be confused by backlinks. These are not people who are linking to your site because your site is of a good resource. These are people who are linking to you because they're either claiming your images as theirs, your videos as theirs, and your big files as theirs. So you might be thinking, why would somebody do that? Well, that's very, very common if you think about it. If you've got images on your website, most likely Google has indexed your images into their Google image search engine. And somebody else has come along the image search engine and look for an image, and they might think, oh, I like that image, I'm going to use that on my website. And either they might give you credit, which is great, but that's far and few. And then most likely they might think, well, I like this image, I'm going to link to it, and I'm going to put it on my web host. Now, if you get too many of those, eventually what happens is they begin to use your server resources that you pay for. They're not paying for it, you're paying for it. And then they use your videos and they're going to use your bandwidth that you pay for. So keeping that in mind, you're going to need to protect yourself, right? So, like I said, what ends up happening is that you're spending money on more web hosting resources. Now, the way that you can protect yourself with this is by using what we call cPanel, which is a web hosting panel, a very popular one that most web hosting companies use. Now, if you don't have cPanel and you're one of those far and few between, in those cases, sometimes your web hosting company will have rebranded the cPanel to look like their own brand, but usually you can find the hot linking feature that I'm going to talk about in just a minute right there. If not, sometimes they will have their own hot linking feature, but essentially what it does is it disables people from essentially becoming a parasite of your website and using your server resources. So if your web hosting company doesn't use cPanel, like I said, they may have that option. And if they don't, you can always message them and say, hey, do you have hot link protection? Now, to better understand how to implement this, let me show you step by step how to do that. So what you want to do is go ahead and log into your cPanel. If you need to do that, go ahead and pause the video and do that now. Otherwise, I'm going to assume that you are in your cPanel. So to get to hotlink protection, all you need to do is simply scroll down and go to the security section here, and we see hotlink protection. So go ahead and click on that. And if you look at it, it says hotlink protection prevents other websites from directly linking to you. So what we need to do is, we don't need to enable it yet, but what we need to do is enter the URLs to allow access. So what this means is that, let's say, for example, let's just hypothetically use yourdomain.com. What you want to do is enter yourdomain.com, and what that means is that anytime yourdomain.com accesses the image, it's okay. But anytime somebody else that is not yourdomain.com accesses your site, then they will be denied, essentially. So what you want to do is do http:// and then yourdomain.com. And that should be it. But if you use www or you have, let's say, HTTPS, you could add that as well. Now, hypothetically, that shouldn't really matter, but for the sake of just to make sure, we'll just do that. So these are just variations of yourdomain.com. So we can enter that here. And let's say, for example, that you want a other site. Let's say you have a yourseconddomain.com. If you put http://yourseconddomain.com. So let's say, for example, that you have a sister site, and that sister site, it'll be okay if they access your images. So you want to enter that here. So basically what you're telling the system is these domains are okay with accessing these images or whatever file that is. So if you want to add, like, let's say MP4 files. So if you have videos on your site and you only want these sites to access them, you want to make sure that you have the file formats inside here. So another thing, if there are zip files, downloadable .zip files, you want to put zip. So that means anytime somebody accesses any type of these file formats from these sites, it's okay. If they access it elsewhere from somebody else, it's going to block them. It's going to prevent them. Now, you have different choices. You can enter a redirect URL. So if somebody tried to access that image and they're doing so from a different site, then you can redirect them to another page. So whatever page that you want. And this can be good depending on what kind of business you're in. So for example, if you are a photographer and you don't mind people licensing your images, then you could redirect them to maybe your page where you're trying to sell licensing to images. Now, obviously, if you're not that in that case, then you wouldn't really need that. But that's just there if you want to redirect people to a certain page. So once you're done, you just simply click submit and then you click enable and you're good to go.